Hi there, welcome back. I'm here for chapter 42. No, Leanne shouted and began to move so quickly she almost disappeared from Jack's vision. Instantly, he was on his feet, running as fast as he was able to, which still wasn't fast enough. There was no way he could catch her before she caught up to the barely moving prince. But he did have something that could. Without a thought about what he'd do later, or at least without a second thought, Jack whipped his sword horizontally right at Leanne's legs. As hard as he threw it, the sword still barely managed to catch just the tip of her heel, knocking one foot into the other and sending Leanne sprawling forward onto her hands. Her spill gave Jack just enough time to catch her, which turned out to be a bit of a problem, given that the girl he'd just caught now had both his sword and her own in her hands. "Oh, Prince Phillip," she shouted over her shoulder, both swords aimed at Jack. "I'd stop if I were you. Otherwise, I'm going to kill your friend right here and now." Philip hesitated and then slowed to a stop, turning around to look at the situation. "Philip, go," Jack shouted. "I can handle this." "You have no weapon," Philip shouted, taking a step back toward them. "I don't care," Jack shouted. "Don't you get it? You're the only one who can fix this. You're the hero, stupid. Go do the hero work while I take care of little Miss Isn't So Clever here. Go!" Philip paused again and then turned back toward the vines. Leanne sighed. "I've never met a royal who can follow simple instructions." And with that, she stabbed at Jack with his own sword and then threw her sword directly at Philip. There was no time for a word of warning, no time for anything. Leanne was just too fast, and nothing could possibly stop the sword as it flew straight and true, right at Philip's back. Until an urgent, vibrant musical note sounded from behind them. A shimmering hand of crystal smashed down right on the sword in flight, pushing the sword straight to the ground mere inches from Philip's back. And just like that, Philip disappeared into the thorns. "No!" Leanne screamed again and turned her fury onto Megan, now holding the pipes May had just given her. The wolf roared, then grabbed the pipes out of the mermaid's hand with his teeth and bit down hard enough to break them apart. "You have accomplished nothing," he growled at them. "The prince won't have time to break the spell, for the dragons are already here." Jack glanced up to see that the Wolf King was correct. Blotting out the sky were dark dragons of black, red, and green, some with riders, most without. The riderless dragons seemed wilder, more willing to fight, but the dragons with riders seemed to be herding the rest toward their goal, the goal they had now almost reached. It was only a matter of seconds before the fire started. "Come on, Philip," Jack whispered, glancing between Leanne and the wolf, but neither seemed interested in fighting. Like him, both were watching to see who would win, Philip or the dragons. The dragons drew closer and closer. They were right on top of the Fairy Homelands now, and several seemed to be ready to breathe fire. "Now would be a good time, Philip," May screamed. "He's too late," Leanne said in an odd tone. Jack glanced at the eye, but her face was unreadable beneath her hood. "He's just too late." A tiny movement caught Jack's eye from beyond the silver gate. Had Bluebeard just twitched? And then it was too late. The dragons reared back, then dove forward, letting loose a torrential hailstorm of fire, searing everything within an all-encompassing heat that was almost unbearable even at a distance. The thorny vines blackened and shrank away under the flaming onslaught, revealing the most beautiful city Jack had ever seen. Soaring spires painted with colors that had no name, crystal sculptures entwined with trees and bushes, a central pool that looked to be nothing more than water made from the starry sky. It all burned. May stepped closer to Jack, her mouth hanging open, no words coming. Jack knew the feeling. It was all he could do to not fall to his knees and cry. "Philip," May said, tears streaming down her horrified face. He was in the middle of that." Leanne turned around, the fire burning behind her, and glanced at Jack, her eyes suspicious. "That's true. There's no way the prince could have survived that, is there?" The wolf growled low. "The fairy queens would have been worthy foes. It is unfortunate that they had to be dealt with this way. But what the queen commands shall be." "As the queen commands," Leanne said, her voice still suspicious. "Well, I guess it's time for you two, to get you two back to the queen. You take the girl, I'll take Jack." The wolf turned to May, who had her hands up as if she were going to fight him, despite the tears still streaming from her eyes. "You have no idea how not good time this is," she said quietly. "You are not taking us anywhere, do you hear me?" The wolf sighed. As the queen commands, so shall it be." And with that, he leapt at May. And just as fast, the wolf fell to the ground, unconscious from the hilt of a glowing sword slamming into his head. May glanced up in surprise. So did Jack. Leanne tossed Jack's sword a few feet away and then bent down to check if the wolf was still breathing. She nodded. He'll be fine. Above them, the dragons began to circle, their jobs now complete, then slowly formed back into a flight formation before heading off the way they came. Leanne watched them go, Jack and May still staring at her in surprise. Finally, she turned to look at them. Okay, what? She said. Why, that, Jack said, waving vaguely at the wolf. You don't get it, do you? She said, shaking her head. I mean, I should expect that by now, but I always seem to give you the benefit of the doubt, and... Get to the point, May said, her voice still quiet. You'll figure it out soon enough, Leanne said, pointing out into the still-burning Fairy Homelands. And that means it's probably time for me to go, considering what's about to happen. She bent down and grabbed the Wolf King's paws, then dragged him a short distance away. Tell Phillip I'm impressed, she said. And Jack, she smiled, see you soon. She picked up her sword, blew a familiar-looking whistle, and disappeared along with the Wolf King. Behind them, Bluebeard groaned. What's going on? He said, pushing himself to his feet. Perhaps I can help, said a voice, and Phillip's head appeared out of nowhere. Just his head. And his blushing, bright red face. And then, like a curtain falling, the scene of a burning city fell to the ground, replaced by the beautiful, magical colors of the Fairy Homelands, completely safe and sound. Where to start, Phillip said, now that his entire self was visible. His face just as red. And I'll see you guys for the next chapter. Bye.